All right, welcome to another Weekend No Show. My name is JG. I'm here with my boy CL Smooth. What's really going on, man?
What's good, homie? Glad to be here.
Okay, and I'm here with the insidious LAT. How you doing?
What's up, fellas?
Yeah, guys, as everyone knows, we don't work on weekends. But today I want to talk about the work culture. And I think, Smooth, you were the one who was saying, man, you remember that movie Office Space? And then we all kind of we started talking about that. And I watched it again. And it's so, it's uncanny how relevant it still is to today's climate. So, Smooth, I mean, you kind of brought this up. Why don't you lead us into this thing, man?
Yeah, so a little background for folks who may not have seen Office Space or not familiar with it or just don't really remember the movie. This was back in the late 90s. A movie came out. Mike Judge, I think, was the writer. And just a real funny comedy about the I don't know any other way to say it, the meaninglessness of work life, cubicle life.
Sure.
And kind of an interesting note is that I think that same year, I don't know if it was I think it might have been 99, that same year that Office Space came out, Fight Club, The Matrix, and American Beauty,
right.
three other movies that came out, and they all kind of dealt with that cubicle life, the kind of meaningless kind of feeling that people had at that time about the type of lives they were living, right? You know, kind of trapped in the office space. So
yeah, I didn't think of that, but that's true. That's true.
Yeah, interesting to kind of revisit that. So background of the main character, Peter, he's this youngish dude, I would say like mid to late 20s, in IT, working in this office. And this dude is running reports and doing things, and he's got like 9 different bosses. And so if he messes up on one thing, then he's got like 9 different people coming to him like, hey man, you know about that TPS report, man. He's like,
TPS.
Yeah, those 6 other bosses already told me about it. You know what I mean? So, just kind of the frustrations of that office life and office culture. And you have you have the lady, I don't know if you caught that, Jay, the lady that comes through and, 2 of the characters are kind of complaining about their day and stuff like that. She comes through, she's like, "Oh, looks like someone's got the case of the Mondays."
Case of the Mondays. Oh yeah.
Those BS kind of corporate phrases and nonsense talk that goes on, in those kind of settings. So, anyway, the gist of it is this dude is kind of stuck in his life, right? He's unhappy in his relationship. He's unhappy with life. He's unhappy with his job. He hates his job. He hates his relationship, but he's afraid to lose his job. He's afraid to lose his girlfriend. But he's not happy with anything. And what ultimately happens is he goes to some hypnotherapist who hypnotizes him, knocks him out, so that he just doesn't care anymore, right? And by releasing, by letting go of his expectations, the world's expectations, his boss's expectations, he just kind of like everything gets in a groove. He's like in the flow. He might show up to work, he might not show up to work, but things just start working out for him there. So that's kind of the background of the story.
Which that was a mistake, though, right? If in the movie that wasn't supposed to happen. So,
no. I think
what's that odd is that we don't know what really would have happened. We saw what happened to the hypnotist.
Well, yeah, the hypnotist like had a heart attack.
Had a heart attack.
The session. Yeah, and so I think the whole point what the hypnotist was doing was trying to put him over to relax him because like the character Peter was like, man, every day is the worst day of my life. So right. The hypnotist is like, all right, let me help you with this, and he starts putting them deeper and deeper under, letting go, release, relax, let go of the things that aren't important, type of thing. But before the hypnotist can bring him back, right, to consciousness, he keels over and dies of a heart attack.
Yes.
So he never really comes out of the hypnosis, but it has a positive effect in terms of how he deals with the rest of his life. Like he kind of
exactly
he takes it so much easier that he ends up getting promoted at work. He finds a new girlfriend. Well, actually, he gets the courage because he just doesn't give a fuck, to talk to this girl that he's always liked, and he starts dating her. I mean, he breaks up with the other girl first, or she breaks up with him, whatever. But things just start to go pretty well for him there by letting go. And I just think that was an interesting commentary on society that still applies today, that sometimes we try so hard to live these lives, particularly if you're plugged into social media. It looks like everybody is famous, everybody's making money, everyone's a supermodel, right? Because we're all plugged into social media. Everyone's showing their best, their best side, so to speak. And so that creates pressure for society to like, damn, you know, JG and Vel, they living that life, man. What the hell am I doing? You know, where the reality is, not that many people are really, really living the lives that they portray.
No, I live in that life, man. You were right about that.
But anyway, I'll that's kind of the background on the show. If you guys want to jump in with your thoughts and that sort of thing.
Yeah, LAT, man. What about you? What do you think about it?
I didn't really like the movie that much. I thought it rung a little hollow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, as someone who, not all of them, but the majority of my jobs have been office jobs. And yes, every job you go to, there's just work in general, not necessarily just office jobs, but just jobs in general. Even working at the bar, I get annoyed by people's personalities and their need for attention, or their need to sort of show that they're in charge and shit like that. So I don't know if it rung that true for me in terms of office work. I just think that that hell is other people, no matter what you do for me. And for that reason, also, I'm not a big fan of Mike Judge. I know Mike Judge, and I know his work. And I don't know, he's always struck me as sort of a white boy's auteur. And for that, I kind of go into his pieces with a little bit of, I go into him with a little bit of bias already. So I did enjoy it, but I also didn't think that he said anything terribly profound. I mean, what is Office Space if not The Office, if not Friends, if not any other office based or school based for that matter? Isn't that, I haven't even seen it, but I imagine that's what Abbott Elementary is, just a bunch of weird personalities that are stuck together, and they have to figure out how to work it out and do their jobs. Community was the same. So for those reasons, I do remember enjoying it, but I also don't remember thinking it was terribly good.
Okay. See, that strikes me as odd because, I mean, it's such a cult classic, and not that, someone can't like it. It's always strikes me as odd. You're the first person I've heard say that they were underwhelmed. Normally when you bring up Office Space, people who have seen it are like, oh yeah, man, remember this part and that part, and you get into it. And then we brought it up with you, and then you're like, whatever. As the kids would say, mid, huh?
Well, and the other thing is, I went into it having heard, and I'm going to say it was mostly my white friends, but a lot of my friends were saying that this was the greatest movie. So I went in there with very high expectations. So, and then when, I saw the the Monday scene, I saw the scene where they, beat up the printer or whatever the hell that is. They, destroy. I saw all the iconic and shoot me for using the term iconic, but I saw all the iconic scenes, and maybe because I had heard people quote them so often that by the time I saw them, they didn't seem that it didn't seem that fresh to me. So yeah, but I did go in there having heard people tell me it was the greatest movie ever for years.
Yeah, I never heard that. I never heard people saying it was the greatest.
No, I never heard that either. But I mean, I had a lot of people coming at me like, man, this Office Space, yeah, Office Space, man. And so you came to understand that people really love this. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. That's pretty interesting to me. But as a counterpoint, because Smooth, you kind of came in one way, LAT, you came another way. Smooth, what do you have to say to what he just said?
Well, yeah, it's like what I was saying is that this is not a movie. So I guess I'm I'm not that familiar with Mike Judge. I guess if you tell me other things that he's done, I probably would
Silicon
know him.
Valley, Beavis and Butthead.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, I mean, he's probably more geared towards a like a white white male audience. I would kind of agree with that. This is not a movie that like you're gonna be rolling over laughing, and that's what at least the brothers are not, right? But for the most part, but it is humorous in the sense of like, yeah, that shit is true type of thing. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of, if
Right.
you've worked in those kind of corporate settings, really, and like Bill said, any of those workspace settings, you can recognize at least shades of some of that type of behavior and stuff like that. The only thing I would say is that I agree with Bill. It's you're going to have the dynamic of dealing with other people and people dealing with you, no matter where you are. But for me, what resonates is the question I ask in so many of those corporate settings is like, okay, but why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? Like,
Well, that's your first mistake.
well, right. That's my first mistake. But you know what I'm saying? That's why that's why I like the movie, and I think it's actually deeper than Veli's given credit to it, because even though it's simplistic, I think it gets to the point, which is, there is no really deep reason why we're all doing these corporate jobs, and that's okay. Like you can get pleasure and get meaning out of doing simple things, right? Um, it doesn't really matter what it is if it's meaningful to you. But I think there's a lot of work that most people are doing in the world that is not meaningful to them. The only damn reason that they're there is for a paycheck, and they're barely hanging on for that. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think it was interesting that by that visualization of him letting go and releasing, like, all this shit ain't really that important. Let me focus on what's important. My friends, my relationships outside of here. Now they did try to rob the place, so we got to talk about that. I don't know how we set up that in the midst of it, but I think it was a good movie. I wouldn't call it great. I certainly wasn't rolling over, dying laughing, but I did think it was humorous and an interesting commentary on the times. So that I guess that'd be my view on it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I thought that. I thought it was a great movie. I always liked Mike Judge stuff. Silicon Valley, I love that, and I really thought that he had a knack for really pointing things out without. Oh, you didn't know that was him?
No. Damn it! No, I like something he did.
Yeah. And,
actually, hey, Jay, what's interesting is if we think of that movie Office Space and some of those messages in relation to today, right? Because after the pandemic, and you had what they call like the Great Resignation, um, a bunch of people lost their jobs, and then other people quit their jobs, and now a lot of people are not going back to their jobs, and so I know we're going to talk in future episodes about AI and automation and things like that, and the impact that that's going to have on not just blue collar work, which is what everyone thinks about, robots and car factories, but like lawyers and other types of um, highly paid professions that you wouldn't think would be automated are going to be seeing some of that. So I think that all that ties together with how people feel at work, and then what's going to be the nature of our society when maybe there isn't as much work available, even though we don't want it. What do we do then? So I think all those things tie together.
Oh, I'm there right now, because the majority of what I did back when I was doing my last corporate gig, it was a lot of repetitive emails, a lot of repetitive phone calls. And if AI can just as easily dial those numbers and read a script. I didn't have an actual script, but there was an unofficial script that I used when I was talking to these clients. And AI could absolutely do that. If people don't, and I knew a lot of my clients, they did not want to talk to people. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that whole kind of, cookie cutter corporate culture? Because, you know, fortunately for those of us that didn't like it, but unfortunately for those who liked it, if the pandemic didn't teach us anything, it taught us that, wow, what we do isn't that fucking special.
Right.
A machine could probably do it. So yeah, I'm curious.
A lot of us weren't essential as it came to be known. And like, look at what they did. That's one thing that we need to look at. What were they doing? They were adjusting code for Y2K. And it's interesting. I was like, I forgot that's what his job was. And that's one of the things that you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as, wow, what a hoax. Or you can look at it as, this was a job well done, because very little happened. And I tend to think it was a job well done, because I knew
tell people about Y2K, because a lot of folks listening probably don't even know about that.
They may not remember, but okay, the turn of the century, we came to find out that the original coders who coded pretty much the infrastructure of society, the banking, the roads, the traffic signs, they shortened the code when they would get to, the year 2000. They shortened the years to double digits. So every year was 88, 89, 90. So then when they would get to the year 2000, the computer, instead of flipping the first two numbers to 2000 to 20, to 20, it would leave those numbers alone and flip the end back to 00, which would take us back to 1900. And for applications, a lot of applications that relied on having a correct date, this would then break those applications. And so there became a mad scramble to fix this in the code. And I always thought it was odd that the computer industry messed up by truncating this stuff. And then all of a sudden it became Y2K. I'm like, you guys just did it again. But the point was, people were expecting planes to fall out of the sky and cars to just crash and everything to just stop working. But it didn't. There was only a very few hiccups. And they were dragging some of these guys out of retirement who understood COBOL, Pascal, those old languages that things were coded in back in the day. So that's what they did. What were they called? Initech? Was that it? Initech?
Initech, yeah.
Initech, that's where they were. So that's what he did. What struck me about the movie was I thought it was just so dead on. At the very beginning, he's trying to get to work. He's fighting traffic to get somewhere he doesn't want to go, somewhere he doesn't want to be. And it's like, wow, that just is incredible. And especially like to say iconic scene where he's trying to get out of there before Lundberg can tell him to come in on Sunday. And right. He just can't get out of there. But actually he could have. As I'm watching it, I'm like, it was his misguided sense of the corporate loyalty, I guess. He could have just hit that button and been out the door. But to him, it was important that he wait there and finish that progress bar. He didn't have to wait there. And I thought, man, you could have been out the door, dude. And some other things I thought was where he said, my dream of doing nothing, I did absolutely nothing, and it was everything I thought it could be. I think people who work in some of those days, people are like, man, I went here and I went here and I went here. It's like, no, dude, I'm just going to go home and I'm not going to do nothing. So I think it was something that a lot of people could empathize with, could really, see themselves in that situation of just doing nothing. But more like today, I was really struck by how it really dovetails with the whole anti-work movement. If you go on Reddit, the Reddit anti-work, a lot of it just goes hand in hand. It's like this movie could have been made by them. It just shows you how ridiculous it is, and you're wasting your time to essentially do some useless task. And I just thought, man, this movie, it could be updated for today. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be updated, but it works on so many levels.
But JG, is one of the things I think about is that there was a time, right, in old history where people, wasn't so much going to school, but they would apprentice with someone, right? I guess a corollary today would be like learning how to be a plumber or an electrician or, you know, contractor, handyman, whatever, by actually doing the work and learning from more experienced, expert people. And the benefit of that was getting a level of proficiency beyond just book knowledge, right? We got a lot of people in the world who are book smart who haven't really experienced anything, but they talk about things like they've actually been through it. Versus people who've done a lot of hands-on, actually experienced and had to adjust to different situations, professionally and whatnot. So I think that's a big difference. But there's also a freedom that comes with learning a profession, learning a skill, a trade. It doesn't have to just be trades, but something that has the ability to help you to become free financially, owning your time, all those types of things. And that's why I do, as much as there's criticism for social media that's warranted. One of the things I really do appreciate about it is that it has opened up a world so that people can be individual content creators, and folks may not, some folks are making a lot of money off that. Most folks are not, but there's that opportunity is there. The avenue, the possibility of more people becoming free through being creative on their, through their own work, is greater than ever. And hopefully that will increase in the future. And I think that'll help to free people of some of the drudgery and that term corporate slavery, man, that has been going on forever. If you've ever been in sales, which I've done, for a number of years, you're working extremely hard to sell a product or a service for a company. You get a commission on it. You rarely feel like, damn, I got my money's worth in terms of what I contributed, to the company. And they can easily let you go if they haven't hit their numbers for the quarter. And if that AI chatbot starts popping, then that they might be making your phone calls instead of you. So that's why I like this avenue for freedom that people have, where they can control their own income, whether it's content creation or a trade or something else, that they have more kind of control over. I think that's a good thing. So to me, again, that kind of is the underlying message with office space. It's not that corporate work is evil or bad, because you can learn some stuff that you can take and utilize on your own in the future. But for the most part, what it's become is you are a cog in the machine. Your job is not as broad, where you're using broad-based skills and intelligence and things like that. You've got a real, like they were like you said, trying to fix Y2K code. I'm sure they did other things, but it sure didn't seem like it. You know what I'm saying? It's like they had a very specified function, just like a wheel in a machine has a specified function. And so for human beings, that's not ever going to be fulfilling. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a job. So
yeah.
So this is probably a separate subject, but I don't know if technology is the great equalizer that it used to be. Because what's happening, well, the audience doesn't know, but you guys certainly know, my own technical woes have been rearing their head lately. And it just in terms of sort of using AI or social media, etc., as a means of freeing yourself from the corporate drudgery. But the thing is, you have to have the tech, you have to have the latest software, you have to have the most up to date equipment, and that shit is expensive, and that's going to create a whole nother sort of social gap, a technology gap that we found out about during the pandemic, that we already knew about, but it became worse when people had to use computers to to get their groceries, etc. And so I'm concerned about sort of AI, social media, and sort of things getting mechanized. That's going to create a huger wealth gap, because not everybody has the technology, and even those of us that do have it, we don't have the up to date shit that costs thousands of dollars in order to put ourselves at that level where we can where we can use tech to make money. So that's one of my concerns. I'm not just being contrary, even though I do enjoy being contrary to you, but I do think about that.
No, it's true because
technology.
There's a planned obsolescence in it, isn't there? Where you have an Apple device and suddenly they tell you, hey, Zoom and Dropbox and Google Drive no longer will be supported on this operating system. And then what? Okay, I'll just upgrade the operating system. But you can't, because Apple has decided that the next operating system will not run on this machine. Now you have no choice but to get new hardware. And like you said, it's not cheap. And there's a barrier. There's a cost of entry to these things where, yes, it's not always easy to just start a YouTube channel. I'm just going to start a podcast, start a YouTube channel. Well, can you afford the startup costs of those things? And not everyone can.
Well, hopefully, the means of startup will become cheaper over time. That's what typically happens. But Vel's certainly right in the early stages. That unless you have the means, there's a whole swath of people who are going to miss out on that early opportunity. And who knows, man? I mean, this is kind of in your guys' neck of the woods. With the whole computer generated artwork and stuff like that. I mean, I can see all that increasing and pushing people out more. But yeah, I don't want to actually, I don't want to overstep future episodes I know we're going to talk about. But I think it just proves the point that this movie, Office Space, while it's very simple on its foundation, it's I wouldn't call it a brilliant movie. It was funny, it was entertaining. I thought it had some good, insightful moments, and it's certainly, I mean, you see from the conversation, made us think. There's a lot of issues embedded within that movie that are still relevant. More than 20 years later. So.
Yeah, and consider what he's kind of going for is how meaningless that corporate life was. And if we look at recently in the news, we have Bernie Sanders saying he wants to move to that 4-day work week. And to me, and keep the salaries, all the wages, salaries the same, the pay the same, so that you get the same amount. And he's even saying, hey, with automation, with AI, do we really need to be there 40 hours a week? We're kind of just holding on to this arbitrary time limit because that's the way it always has been. And I feel like, again, this movie was kind of right there on this stuff. Like, hey, people need to be happy, and that's going to give us our most productive society when its citizens are happy and they can be productive. And give them a day off, man. Give them another day off. I mean, looking at his that article that I was reading, it's a New Zealand company, I believe, that does these programs for 6 months in the UK, the US, and all over the world, where they can get in, where they go to the 4-day work week. And they said, the article claims that none of them went back afterwards because the morale went up, the productivity went up, and even the resignations went down a little bit, which the article says is huge because we're in the middle of the Great Resignation. And I just think it's like, wow, if people feel better, they're willing to put in more work. And like Peter says in there, and you even brought that up to where he's got eight or nine bosses, he gets a ton of crap if he does something wrong. If he puts in more time to send out more stuff, he doesn't see an extra dime. So his only real motivation is the fear of not being fired. But that's only going to make you work so hard just to not get fired. But if you feel like there's a reason for it, if you feel like you're being treated well and your whole life isn't just this meaningless drudgery, then people are more productive. It seems like it's a no-brainer, but I know there's a lot of entrenched resistance to 4-day work week and the whole anti-work movement in general.
Listen, let me just put this out there for the audience. My name's Lavelle Tyler. I have Microsoft Office skills, and I'm glad to come to your office. It's hard on the boulevard.
You heard it here, folks.
I'll do 5 days up to a point.
Yeah. Getting that work, man. See, people, if they're going to leave it there, then you're going to pick it up, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just think
will quickly clap for you all day, but you got to pay me.
It just becomes a question of like, like what would it take for everyone to have the opportunity to have, decent housing, food on the table, medical care, you know what I'm saying? Some of the basics, that you need in a modern civilization. And I'm not talking about welfare or handouts or anything like that. I'm just talking about structuring things in a way that maybe the profits flow a little faster and distributed a little wider in the global economy. Because people, politicians come into office all the time, and they're always talking about, we need to create jobs, and I'm like, motherfucker, people don't want jobs, man. People want freedom. They want freedom. So if it's 4 days a week, cool. I mean, we could do that. But the thing is, it's got to tie together, man. If it's 4 days a week, cool. We'll bust the ass for 4 days. We'll do what needs to be done. But look, I'm not working until I'm 70, 75. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't make sense. There's a whole, all these things are tied together by this thread that keeps people captured.
Be careful what you say. Aren't they already in the midst of pushing up the retirement age 2 years or something?
I think they've already done that, didn't they?
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that.
That's my point. People don't want to work longer. People want to be free, man.
75 ain't that far away.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Oh, man, I'm tired of working now.
We're talking about we're black men. We're black men. None of us are going to make it to 75. Come on.
Oh, I guess there's that light at the end of the tunnel. But guys, on that note, we're getting to the end of our workday, so we're going to have to wrap it up.
Jokes on him. I'm not going to live that long.
We're not going to live to the end of this episode. So,
speaking of which, where's my paycheck, man? Where's my paycheck for this no-show?
About that, I think I hear somebody calling me, so I think it's time for us to get on out of here. You guys got to go to, the old saying, you don't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. So that's going to be the end of this weekend no-show. That's going to be the end of this one, guys. Please like and share and subscribe if you like this show. We appreciate it. And we're going to see you guys on the next weekend no-show.
All right, fellas. Peace.